I'd like to share with you a purchase with which I'm quite pleased. I like to use fountain pens. I have a modest collection which I use, and I also use them at school, various places. This is one I've been using. It's my everyday pen. It's perhaps a little small for me, but what's happened is that the cap no longer clicks in place. You can just hear the faintest, perhaps. So it falls off and leaves ink everywhere. I wasn't particularly fond of this pen, but it was okay. It was one I'd use every day, and it worked. But sadly, that's no longer acceptable. So I was looking for a replacement. And I came across, quite modestly priced, under £30 including delivery, something called a Twsbi Eco. And I'm really rather pleased with it, and I'll show you why. Tell you why, if I may. Came in this box, which I like, quite minimalist. Inside, we're trying to stop using plastic, aren't we? So there's not all that much plastic. And inside there's some instructions and a bed for the pen. And there's a little wrench and some lubricant. More on that later. This is a pen, and it's what they call a demonstrator, which means it's clear. You can see through. And the size of it compared to this one, much the same in length, but a little bit girthier. Now, the reason that I like this, and I think it's good as a first fountain pen for someone who's perhaps not been using them, is the fact that you can see the ink level, and you can see the colour of the ink. That might not bother if you only got one pen, but certainly being able to see the ink level is useful if you're not new to fountain pens, because on this one you can't, and on one of my favourites, the Parker Centennial, you can't see the ink. So if I pick this up, I have to take the cap off, then unscrew the barrel, and then I can see, yes, actually this one's full. Oops, this one's full. Sometimes you can't see so clearly. Well, it's not full, it's up to about there. And it doesn't hold all that much, so it needs filling fairly frequently if you use it a lot, whereas this one, as you can see, holds loads more. So that's useful if you're new to it. It means you can see quite clearly whether you've got ink. You can just pick it up and take it to work or wherever, and you can all the time you can see if it needs refilling. A couple of other things I like about it. Cap comes off. It's quite secure, but it comes off with kind of half or quarter of a turn. There's a little rubber O-ring round there, so when you screw the cap on, you can feel the rubber engage. That does two things. It stops it coming off with vibration in your bag, and it keeps the nib moist, so you don't get hard starts when you start to write. It keeps it moist for a reasonable period. So all stuff which, if you're new to fountain pens, is very useful. Something else which may not bother you, I like to post my pens. So this one fits my hand quite nicely. I could do with it being a bit girthy around here, but it's not bad. Depends on the size of your hand. And it's okay in the hand. I like to post my pens, which means I put the cap on the end, and it's got another little O-ring, so as I put the cap on, it seats quite firmly. And that, with that added weight, I find slows things down but makes things more enjoyable, more accurate, gives you time to, for me anyway, gives me time to process. And it makes my writing, I think, nicer. I'll show you from above later. Sound of the pen. It's plastic, obviously, but and here's me putting the cap back on. And then the cap off. quite a pleasing sound, I feel. The Centennial sound of it. So I'll show you from above. If you're considering using a fountain pen, I can recommend it. It's got a steel nib, very smooth, writes very well, writes as well as the others which cost a fair bit more. And being a steel nib, you're unlikely to damage it unless you're really clumsy. I think it's great. I'll show you from above. Here's the pen in all its glory. I'll show you something. It's what's called a piston filler. When you screw this end cap here, it simply pushes the piston down, expels the air. Obviously the nib will be in ink, and as you draw it back up, it draws ink into the barrel. It's a considerable amount. Doesn't use cartridges. Now that might be an issue because you might want to carry spare cartridges, but because this holds so much ink, if you fill it before a trip, you've got to do a lot of writing before it will run out of ink. Something that's a little bit odd about this is that you have this wrench here and you have this silicone lubricant. So when you get the pen, as the instructions are showing here, you need to, it's empty of course, you can see the threads there, you remove this section and it's a reverse thread, and then you apply the lubricant to the piston and lightly perhaps around the barrel. There's videos online showing you how to do this, and then you screw this section back in with the wrench. You get the wrench on because you unscrew this cap slightly and there's a gap and the wrench fits in there. So that I found that a little bit of a faff. And also the this bottle of lubricant doesn't come out so easily. Doesn't come out so easily, so I had to use a pair of needle nose pliers in order to squeeze it to get it out. So if you're buying it from a shop, I'd say get the shop to do it. I don't know why they ship it like that. There must be a reason. But I'd say get the shop to do it, or if you buy it online as I did, then look at the video online and you just have to sort of prime it, as it were, to get things going. But once it's going, all very good. Fairly minimal plastic. I think the Eco stands for economy, not ecological, but anyway, it's fairly ecologically sound, I would imagine, as these things go. Compared to a ballpoint pen, it probably uses more plastic than the average ballpoint pen, but should last a lot longer. All the sections here, all the stuff inside, it can be completely dismantled, and you can get spares. For how long, I don't know, but you can get spares. So I'd have thought ecologically friendlier than the average ballpoint, and the fact it doesn't use cartridges with keep throwing away that plastic is great. So lovely all in all. I'll just show you how it writes if you're at all interested. Incidentally, I'm using a different microphone from the one that was earlier in the video. I'm using the Earthworks SV33, and earlier I was using the Rode Classic 2 valve mic. Very nice. Can't complain about that at all. Good flow, good amount of ink that it puts down. Very smooth. So there's my recommendation. The Twsbi Eco as a fountain pen for beginners, or as a fountain pen as a kind of everyday fountain pen.